Hey everybody, just put a little bit of sinking granules in my Gourami tank here. My striped Raphael is out enjoying himself, and I also have my Bumblebee jelly right there to the right. That is a South American Bumblebee jelly. I bought it from one of the big chain pet stores as a South American Bumblebee, and one of my very astute viewers long ago pointed out that that was actually a South American Bumblebee jelly. I looked. Sure enough, the Bumblebee jellies are ever so slightly different than the regular South American Bumblebee cats, and they get larger and they get more aggressive. So I put this one in my tank not really knowing what it was, and I've had some issues with it in the past, and because of him, I can no longer keep small fish in this tank, and that is one of the few fish I've ever seen attempt to eat an Otocinclus. I have shot some video recently, and I've been talking about the Otosinklist, and I've been talking about the various catfish that are venomous. This striped Raphael here being one of them. These are classified as armored catfish, and they are indeed venomous fish. They have venom glands attached to their spines, so if you ever get stuck by those spines, they're very, very painful. Of course, it's not necessarily life-threatening. There's only one species of catfish that actually has a life-threatening toxin, and that is the oriental catfish, I believe it's called. But the Bumblebee jelly there, as small as he is, I'm trying to get you a little bit better look at him. As small as that fish is, he has had a couple of spirited attempts at eating the little Otosinklus. Now, see, there's one right there. So you can see the size difference between the Oto and that Bumblebee jelly. I know you can't see it real well, but that's not a really big fish. It's maybe 3 or 4 times the size of the Otosinklus. That never was even able to swallow the Oto. All it was able to do was get the head, and I'll call it the shoulders of the Oto, in its mouth, and it was basically swimming around the tank choking on it because it couldn't get it any further in. So I intervened, and I went in, and actually before I could even get down to separate them, it thrashed around a little bit, and it wound up spitting the Oto out, and the Oto swam away like nothing had bothered it. So as far as I know, I have yet to actually lose an Otosinklist to being eaten by another fish, and I find it very odd that the only other fish that's ever really deliberately attempted to eat an Oto was that very small, by comparison, Bumblebee jelly. The video I shot the other day, and I got lucky and caught my Tenopoma in my 125 gallon tank, taking a shot at one of the Otos. And first of all, I think it was by accident. I don't think the fish realized that it was an Otosinklus that it was striking, and then it promptly spit it back out. So something was going on there that I found very interesting, and I find it very curious that no fish ever really seems to bother the Otosinklus, and the only exception I've ever seen is that Bumblebee jelly. And since that, I've never hadn't had an issue with that Bumblebee jelly. As you can see, I've still got Otos swimming around this tank. So I think that was one of those cases where one attempt at eating one of them was all learned its lesson, and it's never bothered trying to eat an Otosinklus again. So my striped Raphael in there is getting pretty plump. He used to be in my tank that I call my 29 gallon miscellaneous tank, and that is our tank right here to our right. Quite some time ago, when he was in there, he stayed hidden all the time. He always stayed buried in the rocks, and I never saw him. And then I eventually moved him into this tank because I knew he was going to outgrow that tank eventually, and he was getting sort of a little bit bigger. So I put him over here, and he was super reclusive for the longest time. Maybe the first 9 months or so I had this tank up and running. It was one of those situations where I would just sort of forget he was in there unless I got lucky in the morning, and I happened to see him out when I turned the lights on, and then he would quickly hide and I wouldn't see him again all day. And then something happened where he suddenly started hiding under this rock. This is pretty much his cave now. He stays in there all the time, and it goes straight through and out the back, so it's not like it's a sealed in cave or anything. But they are nocturnal fish, and they are fairly reclusive, and he spends a lot of his time in there. But he does come out now when I feed, and he never used to. I think he used to just come out at night and he would feed off of whatever was left in the tank or whatever he could find during the night. So now, as I've said plenty of times before, I'm a really, really heavy feeder. I feed this tank probably 5 or 6 times a day with various foods. I'll put sinking wafers in one time, and then I'll put some granules in the next, and I'll put some flake food for the surface fish, and et cetera, et cetera. So I will certainly put my hand up to being a very heavy feeder. And the result is, in the last couple of months since that striped Raphael has been more outgoing, I have noticed he has gotten much, much larger. He's grown very rapidly in the last couple of months. So I'm kind of wondering at this point how big he's going to ever wind up getting. Very, very pretty fish, though. I really like the striped Raphael. That's definitely one I would recommend. I've had some fish in the past that I've got and I wouldn't ever get again, and I usually recommend people not buy them because they're not all they're cracked up to be. The striped Raphael is not one of them. It is a fairly reclusive fish, and if you get one, you're probably not going to see a ton of it. But I personally don't mind that in a fish. I enjoy the little, surprise every now and again. And I do have to say, I'm happy he's gotten a lot more outgoing than he used to be. A fish you never see is no fun. You spend all that money and time and care and setting a tank up. You want to see him occasionally. So I'm quite happy that he's now a little more out and about and outgoing. My clown loaches in here are another one that's supposed to be a very slow-growing fish. And they have grown very noticeably since I bought them, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago. It hasn't been long, and they've probably doubled their mass. They've probably doubled their weight since I've got them. And again, I was under the impression that these were very, very slow growing fish, and at the rate they're going, I mean, these things are going to be big, hefty clown loaches here in another year or so. So that's kind of exciting. I got a couple of these in my 125 as well, and I'm going to feed that tank a little more conservatively, or at least I plan to. I probably won't. I'll probably wind up dumping just as much food in there as I do in this one. But if that's the case, I'm going to have some big, beautiful clown loaches in that tank pretty soon too. And then, of course, all those other loaches you see swimming around are my skunk loaches. Probably my favorite loach next to the clown. And the clown I would not put as my number one loach, only because they do ultimately get to about 12 inches. They get very large. The skunk loaches here are just as fun. A little less flashy, you don't get the colors, but they are just as fun, just as much personality, and they only get about 4 inches. So they're great little fish that you can keep even a nice little group of 2 or 3 of them in a 10-gallon tank even, I would say. Shouldn't be much of an issue. The clowns would eventually obviously outgrow that, and ultimately they're going to outgrow this 55. You can't keep a couple of fish that are a foot long in a heavily crowded large community tank. That's only 55 gallons. That's just not possible. So I've got options down the road, and that's going to be way down the road before they do outgrow this tank, so I'm not too worried about that at the moment. So that was my little video. It wasn't really anything specific. This is just a case I saw the striped Raphael out, and I saw that Bumblebee jelly out, so I thought I would try to go ahead and get some footage of that while it was out. It's not one you see very often. In fact, I'm actually going to end this video by shining a flashlight on that Bumblebee jelly, and he will probably recede back into the cave, but for a moment at least you're going to get a good look at what he actually looks like. See if we can do this without scaring him too badly. So you can kind of see how the front of his head, that whole thing is just mouth. I mean, when that thing opens up, he just basically becomes a tube that small fish disappear down. Very, very big mouth on such a small fish. There you got another little bit of a look at it. He's got a bigger mouth than my striped Raphael does by far, and this is a much, much smaller fish. Here's a little bit better look at him. So he's not happy about having that light shined on him. I don't normally do this, everybody. I really do try to respect my animals' privacy and feelings and that sort of thing. And if they're nocturnal reclusive fish, I know they don't like having bright flashlights shined in their eyes, but having bright flashlight shined in your eye for a couple seconds isn't going to kill him or stress him out too much. He's probably already over it, so no sweat there. But I don't make a habit of doing that. I did just want to take that opportunity and show that fish to you. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe. I do lots of little off-the-cuff videos like this, and you don't want to miss any of them. It's random, and there's usually some good stuff in there somewhere. So go ahead and subscribe. You won't miss any. And please like this video. Please share it with your friends. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.